In Hollywood, the unions decided to open their doors to minorities, and each one hired a minority or two and told them if they behaved themselves someday, one of their race might even get a chance to actually touch the reins of creativity. 1967. I come back from France, show up at the San Francisco Film Festival as a French delegate with a feature film I'd just written and directed, La Permission. It was pretty embarrassing for the old USA. It had been 15 years since a black director had been able to scrape up enough to make a film. And Hollywood had never even had one. In the meantime, the rumbling in the streets had grown to a roar. Hollywood hired 3 black directors, Ossie Davis, Gordon Parks, and myself, to prove to the world they weren't racist. Of course, they tried to sabotage our efforts by giving us substandard budgets and grade B scripts to do. Nevertheless, these films were modestly successful, but it was axiomatic in the corridors of Hollywood that no black film could be a big-time blockbuster success. My answer was how would they know? They never made a truly black film, only white fantasies of what they thought black should want to see. It pissed me off.
We're nonviolent with people who are nonviolent with us, but we are not nonviolent with anyone who is violent with us. So any means necessary to bring about justice.
Hollywood was the one doing the dreaming. While Hollywood was clinging to make-believe fantasies, America was exploding. The streets were running blood. Maybe Rome wasn't burning, but Houston, LA, Chicago, New York sure were. I decided to kick Hollywood's ass. Which brings us to Sweetass. Like I said, it didn't just spring out of thin air.
Where's Sweetass?
Come on, boy! Look at me. I don't know where Sweetass is. Come on.
Sweetass was a huge financial success. It was also a take no prisoners political manifesto. So much so until the Black Panther Party, who J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI, had declared public enemy #1, endorsed the film unconditionally and made it required viewing for all of its members.
Don't mark it.
Hey, Sweetass. I'm sorry, man. Forgot you two are attached together. Let's see if we can get a little air between you. There, you step over here.
The way I saw it then, and still see it now, is that the biggest obstacle to progress in America is our conditioned susceptibility to the white man's program. Our minds have been colonized by images of black humiliation, marginality, subservience, impotence, and criminality that are ubiquitous in mainstream American cinema. These are the supposed self-images seen when African Americans look into the socio-cultural mirror of the cinema. We've been violated, confused, and drained by this colonization. And from this brutal, calculated genocide, the most vicious racism has grown. And it's with this starting point in mind and the intention to reverse the process that I went into cinema in the first fucking place. I think the highly vaunted visual power of the film came from the fact that, having taught myself, I missed the technical colonization of the white aesthetic. But back then, the way I put the images and the color and utilized the sound, folks called me crazy. Now they've started calling it the beginning of the black film aesthetic. And then when the film was finished and I had to have it rated, the jury was all white, and I refused to go to them. So they gave me an automatic X rating. Well, that didn't bother me either, because as far as I was concerned, I've been going to X-rated movies all my life. Hollywood took my formula, diminished the concept of negritude to a flamboyant cartoon, and reversed the political message, turning it into a counter-revolutionary one. And voila, out of the commercial success of Sweetass, to make a long story short, the Blaxploitation movie was born.
Chef!
Right on.
Super dude, super fly. One chicken squad. Queen you a cop. To do a job on the mob. And Foxy Brown.
But the images of blacks shooting and defeating whites, even if the whites were slimy villains, didn't sit too well with Hollywood. And the financing began to dry up. The Blaxploitation films got shoddier and shoddier, and the genre finally petered out. Hollywood no longer says that a black audience doesn't exist. Now it proclaims that a black audience only wants to see action films. The simple fact is that African Americans are not allowed to tell African American middle-class stories without studio, i.e. white intervention. And it's this white perspective forced on the material in the form of guidance that is so disastrous to the film. An African American cineast soon realizes that the deeper into the ghetto the story is set, and the lower down the economic scale, the more likely he or she is to be financed. How much trouble one can see the legacy of the Negro images of the past still reflected in the films today.